ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network. You're watching us on Broadway World or on all social media. You know, New York City, all the cool kids hang out off Broadway. That's where the real stuff is being done. That's where great art is being made. And the Signature is one of the most beautiful places to see a show. There's not a bad show, a seat, or show in the building. And I've been watching a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, our next guest kind of blew up. New York Times review work, essay work, really important, deep, thoughtful writing and work being done on stage. And I think Domenica, if I read the press release correctly, wrote the show and is are you an understudy in the show? Domenica Feraud, welcome to the Roundtable. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's so great to be here.
Domenica, are you selling popcorn, cleaning the rows of seats, and an understudy? Like, are you just taking on all the roles here?
I mean, I am baking gluten-free vegan cookies for my cast because everyone has dietary restrictions, so doing what I can.
I love that. And I love the idea and what I've read so much about Someone Spectacular, about grief, about connection, about, I'm sure, a whole bunch of things. Tell us, What is the show about?
So the show is about a grief group. It's 6 members who have all lost their person in various ways. And on this particular day, the grief counselor does not show up for whatever reason. And there's this moment of, do we continue? Do we stall and vamp? Do we go home? There's a whole play, so obviously they don't go home. And when there's a counselor, usually there's somebody keeping everyone in check and making sure that things stay relatively polite. Without a counselor, things get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. And the characters really butt heads. There's a lot of who deserves to grieve and who doesn't. There's also a lot of humor in the play. These characters are really, really just out of control and funny. We like to say that the play goes off the rails very quickly, and it's quite a ride.
Which as I hope we do, because I'm sure it is quite a ride. You made quite the splash, no pun intended, in Rinse and Repeat. At the Signature in 2019, you were a New York Times Critics pick, and then the world literally stopped the following year through the pandemic. When did you write this? When did this come in the lineage of your work?
So in the lineage of my work, I actually wrote another play that I will do at some point after Rinse Repeat. Everything did shut down, and I wrote my essays. They did very well, and then my mother died very suddenly in 2022. My mother was 51 years old. She was as healthy as can be. We saw company on April 19th with Katrina Lenk, and she was dead on May 31st from cancer that she didn't know she had. She was diagnosed and dead 3 weeks later. When I talk about it, it's like narrating something that happened to somebody else because it's the only way to even fathom that that's real still. That was 2 years ago. And my mom was my whole world. She was my person, my best friend, my partner, my child in some ways. She had me when she was 22. My mom's from Ecuador. My parents are from Ecuador. They had us very young. And so we were just really close. It kind of blew my world apart. I didn't know that I wanted to I didn't know how to be a person without her. It was a very, very hard time. The play gets very frank about a lot of that. And I did not mean to write this play. I went on kind of a writing retreat to work on my other play that I'd had in the pipe work for years. And I also had a film in development, and there was a lot of stuff that I should be working on. And it was too soon to write a play about the death of my mom. I mean, I was so raw in my grief. And yet, this play it poured out of me. Like, it had to be written. The characters started to take form in my head, and they were having conversations. I'd be going for a run or walking the dog, and it just was coming alive. I feel like my mom half wrote this with me, because when I hear it sometimes, I think, did I write those words? I'm not quite sure. So it just happened. It needed to happen. And that's sort of the odyssey of Someone Spectacular and how it came to be.
Well, oh man, wow. It took me back. I'm sorry. Your writing style is reading your essays. If it's a movie star in me, if it's 26-Year-Old Virgin, your essays are very personal. Like they are very detail oriented. They're conversational. They're not something that makes you feel intimidated. Your work, your writing style as a playwright is something that we all relate to. They're universal themes that no matter what age, stage, where you come from, where you live, there's a piece of humanity in all of the things that you write about. And that this might be the most personal then yet after that story. Wow.
I would say yes, it is. It's my favorite thing I've written, and it is very personal. It feels like there's an extra thing with this play. My mother's inspired 2 of the characters in this play, so it feels like putting her out there, and it's really a love letter to my mom. And what I learned when she died, it was a crash course into grief for me and my whole family. My parents were married, so my dad lost his person and partner of 33 years. My brother is 5 years younger, so he was 23 when his mom died. And we had been relatively blessed, and like I have 3 of 4 living grandparents. We had not really had to deal with loss, and then suddenly the most important person in your life is just eliminated off the face of the earth so quickly that you don't have time to process it. And I learned that American society really does not know what to do with grief. And I like to go where there's silence and make noise. As a playwright, that was rinse, repeat. We taking eating disorders. Nobody talks about that. Okay, let's make a play about it. What's the movie star and me? We are taking, I think people in the Me Too movement, everyone was very comfortable, of course, for obvious reasons, talking about Harvey Weinstein, because that was very clearly black and white. Like, this is horrible. And it's monstrous. And then there's a lot of gray area situations that are a little more nuanced that we don't talk about as much. The movie star and me was me saying, okay, hey, look, this happened. I don't know what to do with it. You make of it what you will. I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. And I learned from a lot of people and responses that kind of situation is very common as well. The 26-year-old virgin talking about virginity and how that's represented on screen, and some other words I won't say on this podcast. And just that also was something that nobody writes and talks about. And it was sad to learn that, wow, grief is something that we are very uncomfortable discussing as a society. So this play did feel really important to put out there for that reason as well.
Well, and it's something that everybody goes through. And I have a lot of friends and relatives. I was just with a cousin of mine yesterday who's been in grief counseling since she lost someone very close to her. And it's something unique. And then when people talk about grief in this country, people look at you sometimes like, well, why is this still upset you? It happened a year ago. It happens. We have this like week-long period we give ourselves, and then it's back to work as usual.
Yep. Even at the funeral, I remember there were people who, it was 3 days after my mom died, and she was so young and it was so sudden. Already there are the people who are saying she's in a better place. And it's like, wow, okay, so it's been 3 days and let's be positive about this. And I think that, look, my brother says something really beautiful that I think is important. When you lose someone, you don't want them to be that lost, and then that person to be this like agent of chaos in your life, because you then destroy yourself. They wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want that. Although it's very easier said than done when that happens. He always says that he tries to have mom's memory bring him joy. I really admire that in theory. I think it's a beautiful thing. I try. It's not always possible. But I think that the thing with immediately trying to be positive about something is it starts to build up. Like, you have to let those feel. You have to honor how you feel in the moment. And loss is extremely hard. I still haven't, it's been 2 years. I still have not fully metabolized the notion that I'm never going to see or talk to my mom again. That's something that I don't know, that it's going to take a while for me to understand that. So yeah, it felt really important to talk about grief and give permission to the characters, the audience, and we have a lot of loss in our cast, in our production team. Like you said, everyone goes through it. And why have we taken something that is so human and universal and made it taboo? And something I think about is, okay, one day we're all going to go. Wouldn't we want our loved ones to still be able to talk about us, even in 5 years, 10 years, not for it to be like, oh no, I don't want to ask them a question because then they're going to be all sad. No, I think we would want to live on in our loved ones and be discussed. So I want to do what I can to make that, to just normalize that and make that more possible for everybody.
That's beautiful. I love that so much. You can get tickets. It starts July 17th. Preview starts July 17th. Someonespectacularplay.com. And you can grab your tickets and get them. Go see this show. The staging looks fun. It's almost like in a 3/4 space.
It's
So
a
there's
thrust. Yeah.
thrust stage. There's not a bad seat in the house. So no matter where you sit, and there's tickets, and the Signatures does great things with ticket initiatives, and you can get a ticket for cheaper than you could park your car in New York City. So make sure you go out and get your tickets to see the show for this run. You have an incredible cast of people that have all sorts of work and have done so many things. Tell us about the cast and the creative team that's part of your project.
Oh my gosh, this cast is amazing. I was a big fan of The Comeback with Lisa Kudrow. That was like that's our favorite comedy TV show of all time. So it is really cool to have Damian Young in this play. For those who need a little reminder, he plays Lisa Kudrow's husband, Marky Mark, in The Comeback. He's also in Ozark and a lot of great stuff. And he hasn't done stage work in a while. So when the characters are inspired on people in my real life. And when I asked my father, hey, who would you like to play this like loose version of you? His answer was Damian Young. So it was pretty great that that's who we have. I am in awe watching Damian in the room every day and the work he does. Allison Simmet plays Nell, and my God, it feels like we have found I don't know, the theater's 2024 theater's Lucille Ball. She is just so funny and brilliant and makes choices that are phenomenal to watch. I can't keep my eyes off of her. Anna Cruz Kane plays Lily. Anna was in Barbie and Little Women. She's done a lot of great screen work, and it's really, really great to see her inhabit this character. This character who Lily is, it's a journey to go on with her. We also have Marcus Gladney Jr. playing Julian, and Marcus is doing some really great work and making some fantastic choices. Julian is a character that I think everyone will absolutely fall in love with. I always talk about him like a puppy dog, and Julian kind of represents he's there mourning his aunt. So it's that idea of like society thinking, I mean, if people make it hard for like me to talk about my mom, imagine what it would be like when someone loses their aunt who they were very close to. So it's that like him feeling guilty for grieving that loss, even though this was such an important person in his life. Delia Cunningham plays Jude, a young woman who had a late-term miscarriage and is still grieving that. And Delia did a reading of this play in August, and I immediately just thought, who are you? You are brilliant. This girl, very young and just going to take the world by storm. We just released a video of her on socials, and I commented the future Meryl Streep, because that is how I feel about Delia Cunningham. She is phenomenal. And then Gamze Ceylon plays Evelyn. And this was the hardest role to cast because this is very much inspired by my mother. It took a long time to figure out who would be right to fill those shoes. And I have to say, Gamze is doing such beautiful work. I try very hard not to break down in tears every day. I don't always succeed. She is an astonishing actor. We have a really amazing cast, and our creative team is phenomenal. We have Dots, who are so hot right now doing our set. It was really cool to see Santhi after they were nominated for 2 Tonys in 1 year. First day of rehearsals, day after the Tonys. Mikhail Suleiman is doing sound. He has done some amazing work on Fat Ham and Doubt and Enemy of the People. Una Curley is doing lighting. They are super, super talented and also did Rinse Repeat. So it's great to work with them again. And then Zoe Allen is doing costumes. And my God, this woman has style, which is great because my mother was definitely a huge fashionista. So this play, we need some style in there. And then our director is just, I could talk forever about how amazing Tatiana Pandiani is. I won't, but she's really great.
Well, I was going to ask you both Hispanic, Latin, South American,
yes,
like women, y'all,
mm-hmm.
women on stage. So that's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Big deal.
And it's not that common in theater. It does not happen. And it was really important to me. It was really important to me to work with a Latin woman. Tatiana. And it's really nice to be able to speak in Spanglish. And I met Tatiana because my second play that will come at some point. It's in the pipeline. Mija, I guess it's now my third play because someone's in my head it's my second. It's not. It will be my third. It's very much a bilingual play. A lot of it is in Spanish, and so it was very clear to me. Like, look, I need to work with a Latin director, and I want it to be a woman. That's important to me. And my fabulous producer Margaret Lee put me in touch with Tatiana. And it's been a really fantastic pairing ever since. I don't want to jump the gun, but I do feel like I have found my in terms of theater, my collaborator for good. It's so great to work with each other. And yeah, Latin women, female director and playwright working together in New York theater. Unfortunately, we don't see that more often. I hope we do after this. And look, I hope it's us a lot everywhere. Yes. I think she's going to blow up very soon. She's just, oh my God, she's amazing. She really is. Paige Evans, one of our producers, who has, for those who don't know, Paige was the artistic director at Signature and LCT3. Paige has seen and done it all, and Paige just is in awe of Tatiana. She's really something.
Well, you bring up, I can't wait. Let's go. You bring up the Signature. For people that are out, I teach musical theater. There's writers in my classes, et cetera. They watch these interviews. What is the journey like for you to have had your work produced and your relationship now with them, your second show being put up on their stages? What do you submit? Is it through representation? Do you submit? Do you share your work with a lot of people? Like, what is the collaboration before it gets put on stage? Like, what is the journey like for your process?
God, so the journey for me was I went to school in New York, and I was very lucky that I met a lot of people. I did a lot of internships. I worked at Roundabout. I worked at City Center. I did work at Signature. I did a lot of things and built a lot of relationships. And that was really helpful when I first was putting together very early readings of Rinse Repeat, because then you get people to see it who are in the industry and who can actually introduce you to people and help if they think that there's something there. I was very lucky to have Judith Light be a big mentor with Rinse Repeat and come see my shows in college. It was like, there were just ways in which I met people. And I met Paige in 2017 through a mutual friend. And it started as like, I assisted Stephen Adly Girgis for a couple of weeks when they were doing Jesus Off the A Train, and Paige and I really connected. She very kindly offered to read my work, and I remember so clearly. I was still an actor at this point. I'm very much focusing on that. It's not that I'm not an actor. I am understudying in this. Since my mom died, I act a little less. I prefer writing at the moment. I'm still an actor. I learned when my mom died, wow, I can access this new, they always talked in acting school about the noises people make during death and kind of fetishizing that trauma to a degree. And once you find yourself howling on the floor, making those noises, I didn't feel like, it just felt weird to me to pull on that for an audition, especially as a Latin woman, to play like a drug dealer's girlfriend on some network show. It felt kind of wrong to me. So, and I'm lucky that I have writing. So I just put the focus on that for a while. But anyway, I was going to LA and to focus on acting, and Paige had read Rinse Repeat and said to me, Domenica, this writing thing, you're really good at it. And that stayed with me because Paige has been around and seen a lot, and she doesn't bullshit. Paige is very authentic and honest. And that really stayed with me. So we built this relationship, this kind of mentorship. And when it came time to do Rinse Repeat, she was very supportive of, look, Signature, it's very complicated to get a production there, but she gave spaces so that we could do readings, and then was very generous in helping find a situation at the Linney that was affordable for our producing team and also just happening. I would say that really and then the relationship with Paige has built more and more and more. And now she is a part of Someone Spectacular as a freelance producer and as a dramaturg. So that has been really great. The advice I would give to young playwrights is really focus on building those relationships. And also don't be afraid to leave. If there's a relationship with somebody, a mentor or something that's complicated and not great, there are many more that are there for you. Just keep on trying and building those relationships and fight for what you deserve. Because I feel like I found that in Paige, and I'm so, so grateful to be connected with her. She's an incredible artist and human being.
Yes, someonespectacularplay.com. Get your tickets as we're talking. Someone Spectacular, and then you can follow Domenica on social media as well for all the amazing things that are to come, because I'm sure you have a book coming out.
I do.
And wait, can I ask you about the book?
Yes, you totally can. Please do.
So grief, we brushed aside, we talked briefly about the essays and the vulnerable things you talk about. Grief aside, you talk about relationships or physical relationships with such another taboo topic in this country is we all talk about sex, we all talk about relationships, but we don't talk about, like, we're not sitting down saying, hey, I have these feelings. How do you be so vulnerable? How do you get the courage to just go for it?
Oh, my mom, honestly, I read a lot of Cheryl Strayed after my mom died. And somebody asked, like, in Tiny Beautiful Things when she was doing the advice column, how do you do this? And she's like, honestly, you're just getting Bobby through me. Bobby was her mother. My mom raised me and my brother with this, look, I don't care what you do. Go do everything, have fun. Just please tell me about it. Just keep me informed. And so being raised that way, also my mom had an awful childhood. You will hear plenty about that in Someone Spectacular in these, if I do say so myself, very beautiful monologues and soliloquies. And she was very candid about it. My mom, she was just, so I'm making all these hand motions as though I'm not on a podcast, but she was just a very authentic human being. And when she died, it became very clear to me, like, honesty and authenticity, that is what's going to guide my life from now on. And I think if anything in my writing, I've become even more honest and personal. It's just, I think that people say to me that it's a very difficult thing to do, and yet it hasn't been difficult for me. So I think that I'm like, okay, well, if there's any good I can do on this earth, if it's not difficult for me and it helps people reflect on their own lives and be like, oh my God, I've experienced this as well. And I think that the more honest and personal and open you are about what you've gone through, that's what makes it easier for people to relate to something. If you're kind of general and just generic, no one's going to really be able to connect to that. So it's kind of counterintuitive to think, okay, well, if I get really specific about my life circumstances, no one else has lived your life, so who's going to relate to that? The answer is a lot of people, because they will be able to put on their own experiences to it and connect to your vulnerability. That's what's so important. So being vulnerable as a writer, it's just, I don't know any other way to do it. And it feels very, very easy to me. It's a great thing in writing. It's not a great thing in life, because if I'm upset or I don't like somebody, they will know it. I'm really working on that. I need a poker face. It's not good. It's not good.
I get it. Maybe it's the actor in us. Maybe it's the artist. Maybe it's the living all the emotions all of the time that my husband always says, like, can you walk into a room and not have a face? It's not, I'm just taking it in. It's not supposed to be shady. I'm just taking it all in.
I know, and it's good. It is good. Like my friends always say, look, it's good because we know how you feel. But I think that my family would say it's not so good, because it can be very awkward at a dinner when you're upset and you have this face, even though you're not saying anything, but the face is like, I want to kill you all. I don't want to be here. I'm so angry. And it's very uncomfortable for everyone. So I'm glad that you enjoy how honest and authentic I am. I enjoy it in some areas, in others, it can be a little tricky. We're navigating. We're all growing. Aren't we?
I hear that. So the book comes out next summer. So that's what we're going to follow. You can say, you are what you see.
Yes, you are what you see. It's all looking through, like, we've got a lot of, I just find that, and I realize it's the 26-year-old virgin. If you take, I've spent so much of my life watching movies and TV and theater, and just that's what I do. I will do it forever. I've seen Succession like 4 times through, and many other shows that many times through. And so I think these things that we watch, they really shape us. And that was something I explored in the 26-year-old virgin. And there was a response in the literary world of, ooh, this is kind of interesting. Let's look at this more. And so, for example, some of the essays in the book are like taking a subject like misogyny, which we deal with on a daily level and can be really intense for people to talk about or look at, but it's looked at through the lens of Survivor, this silly reality show, or taking something like rape culture, which is I've grown up in, and it's a really, really difficult thing for obvious reasons, but looking at it through the lens of Gossip Girl. That's sort of what the book does, is it takes these topics that are like heavy and serious and real, and we have to grapple with them. But the lens into it is a little less overwhelming because it's taking these shows that are very familiar and comfortable. I say, look, I love Gossip Girl. It's so great. I watched it for comfort when my mom died. And yet, let's talk about the fact that Chuck Bass tries to, the like romantic hero of the show, sexually assaults 2 girls in the pilot, and we're all told that that's who we're supposed to marry as teenage girls. So yeah, that's a lot of what the book is doing. We're talking about food, we're talking about sexuality. I am fluid, so go into my queerness a little bit, and just each essay, being a Hispanic woman and what it's like growing up seeing representation of yourself as like Gloria on Modern Family, a character that a lot of people love, but also basically just talks about how awful Colombia is all the time and seems to be kind of stupid. So anyway, that is just a little sneak peek of what the book is doing.
I love it. Come on, let's go. This is amazing. Your whole thing is amazing. This is, you talked about the director of your show about to break and become a big thing, as are you. You are a voice and a needed a conversation. And it's got to be more than just a post or an article or a blog or an essay or a play. We're ready for the whole experience. We're ready for you to jump onto stages and screens and bookshelves and all of the things that's to come. Because like I said, what moved me, even preparing in this interview and reading your essays again and reading about the book, is humanity. And that's what art is. That's what we look for, is that humanity. And that humanity is seen through your writing and through your emotions and nuance that you tell. And we feel like we're along the ride with you. And that's beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to being over and coming over and seeing something spectacular.
Cannot wait for you to see it. I'm
so ready. July 17th. I'm going to have tissues. I'm ready. I'm going to have I want to know where the grief counselor is. I'm in my head. I've already had like a, is this Viola Davis? Is the person missing? Is this, where is the grief counselor? I have my own anxious attachment, Domenica. Don't leave me.
Oh my God. The cast, the first day of rehearsal, everyone's like, where is she? What is happening? We must know. So yeah, it's a ride. And look, the characters go through it. Some of them are worried about her. These characters, man, they I can't wait for you to meet them. They are colorful, to say the least.
Oh, well, it's at the Linney Courtyard Theater at the Pershing Square Signature. It's right in the middle of New York City, right in the heart of 42nd Street. Make sure you get your tickets. We're going to follow Domenica on social media. We're going to get our tickets in mandatory summer school viewing of your work, and we'll be ready for everything else that's to come. Thank you so much. Congratulations, and break all the legs.
Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful.
Back at ya. Whoa. Clarence is here as we watch this together. Grief. Yeah. Maybe seeing it on stage depicted. Clarence is my dog, if you're listening to us on the podcast. Maybe seeing it depicted on stage is a great place and a safe space for people to deal with what they're going through. I know that counseling has saved a lot of people's lives, including my own. So if you are in need of grief counseling or want to talk about anything, make sure you find available resources. We also need to make mental health resources free or accessible to all people. And there are free, accessible resources. All we have to do is Google and find some information, depending on where you live, to make sure you're there, or get a ticket and see the show. Art has a lot of healing properties to people who are going through things. What I love about Domenica is when she wrote the movie star essay, it was so vulnerable and real, and I felt the complicated feelings. And then the 26-year-old virgin, complicated feelings about the shows. So I know she's going to tackle this with such nuance and so well done. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to the Roundtable on Broadway Podcast Network and or watching us on YouTube. And I'm grateful for you to be here. If you want more information about me, go to robertbannon.com. Follow us every single day on the Broadway Podcast Network. Follow me on Instagram at Robert M. Bannon. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for being here. The best is yet to come. Bye, everybody.